spécial passer la parole à notre sœur, notre fille, Stacey Joseph. Welcome, Stacey, and we are happy that you're here with us. Et nous connaissons que créole là, ou pas de problème ensemble avec lui, donc nous, nous là pour nous apprendre et de connaissances que vous voulez partager ensemble avec nous. Donc nous disons bienvenue, bienvenue à tout le monde et bienvenue spécialement à toi, l'invité.
Bienvenue tout le monde. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for the warm welcome, mommy number two. Hi Shirley, hi Shirley. Oh my gosh, my sister. Um, said Duandis just said, my name is Stacey Joseph. I'm a social worker. Zon travail social, ma travail dans domaine ça pour presque 8 ans. Fait que so, à prendre position comme superviseur. So, information par partager avec nous, moi pas partager information ça comme un représentatif, non can a official. I'm not saying this as an official representative of any job. I'm saying this based on my experience, not only as a social worker for almost 8 years, but also as a worker that's been working with youth for almost 20 years. So, mge kek ta nan domen nan fil nan, ta men fè nou konen tou, apre prezentasyon sa, mba reme moun kopon se son konseye yo ye. Apre sa, the tips I'm going to share with you all are just some tips that I think everyone should know, especially when you're dealing with young people, children. I know a lot of people has more wisdom than me, but you're never too young at heart or too old to learn new things. So we're going to talk briefly about basic counseling, and I'll switch back and forth from English to Creole, Kringlish, as we like to say, as we continue to move on. So welcome to everybody that's coming on. I'm going to share my screen. Going presentation follow. Y'all like my Kringlish already? I know. It's great. Give me 1 second so I can get set up and share my screen. Again, this topic is on basic counseling. My credentials, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm gen lisans mwen nan domaine travail social la. Ma prale tou pou lisans ki sou tèt li an, paske nou toujou ta reme ale pi an ou toujou nan fil sa. Who is a topic so necessary? Why is this necessary? Brief counseling helps individuals identify and tackle internal conflicts. So, lè nap pale avèk jen moun ou bien nepot moun, lè wap pale avèk yo, lè gon moun ki bezwen ed, lè wap pale avèk yo, jan de program sa yo, informasyon sa yo, li ga ede yo, ede moun nan identifiye ki sa kap trouble li. It increases a level of social support. Moun wap pale avèk li an swa son ti moun, si tou bouti moun paske le ap forme yo, tout an sa yo plis important pou yo. Li fe yo konen ke gen moun ki deye yo, it increases their social network and their sense of village, their wellness. It can alleviate acute stress or break down issues into manageable parts. Gene le la vi an kon trop pou nou mkonen gon paket moun ki kwe ti moun yo sitan ma pa gon ken baye kap trouble yo paske yo gen kay, yo gen manje, yo gen se si, yo gen se la, ki sa kap trouble yo kon sa. Men an tan sa yo, mami yo, maka di freze se, ma konen si gen freze sou ling nan, men an tan nap viv, nap andire kouni an, ti moun pale non nap andire yon paket stres, gon paket bagay kap ese sakaje yo, gon paket force, external forces that are here to break them, to shake them, whether it's school, whether it's social media, internet plan, telefon yo, tout bagay elektronik yo, yo tout gon fason ke yo kan affecte ti moun yo negatifman. So le ou gen kek skill, le ou gen kek bagay nan poch yo ke ou gen wa util, le ou pale avek nepot ti moun ou bien nepot moun ki gen wa ed, ou gen wa ede retire kek stres, kek problem yo gen, ou gen wa ede yo fe gros problem nan piti, epi ou gen wa ede yo e travay avek problem nan san sa. As youth leaders, this information can come in handy when we are approached by youth in need. Okay? I don't know what's going on right now. Unless, sorry. Present on this device. We're having some technical difficulties here. Okay. Things to consider for youth leaders or anybody using this. Emotional support provided to youth is short term. Like I said in the beginning, the expectation is not that everybody is a full-blown counselor after this. Tout bagay sa nou konen se pou an titan liye. Pa an bagay kap an liye pou kek tan. This is not formal therapy. You will not become therapists after this session. Et puis, c'est pas job ou pour buy moun diagnose. It's not your job to diagnose anybody. It's not your job to say, well, moun sa ap souffri de depression. Ou pa gen, et you don't have the credentials to necessarily do that. You are dealing with vulnerable individuals. Si gon moun ki vin bokoto li gen problem, c'est parce que moun sa yo, si telman pa wek, yo ka fe lot bagay. What this actually is, it's mentoring, on sort of mentorship. It's advising, it's life coaching in a form of religious instruction. We do know that a lot of times that as youth leaders, whether it's in the church or whether it's in the communities, whether it's in the home, this a lot of time is exactly what it is. It's a form of religious instruction that, our youth won't be necessarily be able to get anywhere else. Okay. Why is it important for youth leaders to learn basic emotional support skills and concepts? Mda gen moun ekri na chat lan ou bien yo gen dwa unmute yo. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm moving ahead of myself. Hold on. Technology side, eh? Well, while we're trying to configure our technical difficulties, pou ki sa moun pense ke li important pou konen kek nan skill sa yo? Gon moun gen dwa retire ko yo sou mute pou yo di nou sa. Why do you think this is necessary to learn? Anybody?
Moi, wè gen yon moun ki retire sou mute, m'pense ki ta pral repon, Marie. M'kazi li important parce que nou gen moun nan communauté nou ki ou bien nan famille nou ou bien dans l'église nous qui fait façon faire du bagage parfois nous t'avons aider mais nous pas contre qui ça vraiment pour nous être capable de dire même là c'est pas conseil étant que professionnel n'a pas mais au moins nous capable de diriger vers un côté qui en ressources qui gagne.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, mommy number 2. Anybody else? You on lot more.
Ça ka aide tout pour détecter si moun qui a intention faire n'importe bagay à tête li. Ou ka bal support.
Yes.
En tant que religion, à cause de religion, nous ka prier avec lui, nous ka encourager le contexte.
Yes.
Et nous ka encourager la loi et on counselor.
Yes.
Pour aider lui.
Yes.
Je crois que c'est important que nous connaissons type ça yo pour aider l'autre et même aider tête nous tout, bien sûr.
Oui. Thank you so much for that. Tous les deux c'est bon réponse, bon action. Gain plus information pour nous ajouter mais ça nous dit. It is a form of emotional first aid. Second accident, second ba krive, toujours police ka vini, ambulance ka vini, pompier ka vini. Ça son sorte de présence aide émotionnellement. Although it's not as flashy or as big as police, as ambulance, as fire trucks, it is a way to help our young people to be able to first try to see what the next steps would be. It provides us ability to assess situations and make helpful referrals. Like our sister just said, sometimes you'll be able to make referrals or send information up to somebody in need. Gen defwa nou gen dwa wè ki problem moun nou gen, ou gen dwa bay referans par lot professionnel ki ka edel nan ki sa bezwen. As AY leaders, we are often the first line of defense when it comes to our youth. Gon paket jen ke yo soit yo père ou bien yo ta want aller approcher parents yo de ça ka trouble yo de ça ka ba yo problème nan mais là on travaille avec jeunesse dans l'église dans la communauté gen des fois yo ka identifier yo comme un monde yo fait yo à l'aise avec yo ka fait yo confiance pour yo dire qui ça ka trouble yo. As youth leaders, we can identify alarming issues that can lead to early intervention. Gen de fwa, ti moun yo pa wè lot moun pou yo ka di ki sa ka prive nan, swa nan lakay yo, swa nan l'eglise lan, swa nan l'ekol yo, swa nan komunite yo. So, gen de le ou kon aksyon sa yo, le ou depi ou konne davans, ki sa ou ka fe pou yo ede yo nan san sa, ou gen dwa ede yo pou yo prevente yo subi yo ken bagay ki pi mal pita. AY leaders often have a better rapport for young people because you don't have that direct line of parentage. You don't have that extra, I would say, pressure or extra ties to them. Sometimes they feel more comfortable talking to you because they don't feel like they'll get that trouble that they could possibly get when they try to talk to their parents. And enables you to do more and obtain necessary information. Gen de fwa moun kon aposye yo avek problem, mais ou pa kon ki kesyon kou ka pose yo pou we ki sa ka trouble yo veman. And it further helps the relationship. Sou son leader nan komunite parmi la jeunesse, même avec adulte ou bien person âgé, li gen dwa ede relasyon ou gen avek moun yo pou yo fè pi à l'aise avek yo, pou yo ka vin bo kote yo si gen lot bagay ka prive yo. Okay. The aim of sessions, like we said, it's to help reserve internal conflicts. Pour raison qui fait information ça est important puis là rencontrer avec nous non pour qui j'en ka aider yo. Et the end product, pour qu'on ait ça nous t'a remis gain vraiment pour aider yo résoudre qui ça ka et ba yo problème là. Et puis pour comme fait ça dit pour nous ka we can mitigate serious issues before they arise. Please forgive me. I know how to speak Creole, but sometimes the words just come out at once. So nous ka mettons bagay en place pour nous ka préventer qu'on ken bagay plus sérieux rive puis. Before you begin, what important steps should be taken before actual emotional support sessions begin? Instead of calling these therapy sessions, like we said, since not everyone has that profession, we'll call them emotional support sessions. Qui ça ou pense qui est important avant ou commencer par là avec la jeunesse là, ou bien adulte là, personne âgée, moun qui vient beaucoup de qui un problème là. Qui ça nous pense qui est important? I'm a person that likes engagement, so I'm gonna keep pausing to see, number one, that we're paying attention. Anyone can come off of mute. Let's get 2 people. What do you think is important that needs to be taken consideration before these sessions begin?
Listening.
Yes, absolutely. Making sure we're actively listening. That's very important. One more person. I think I heard someone else speak, but I'm not sure.
Essayer de développer une relation ensemble avec mon nom. Avant qu'on commence à dire qui ça pour le faire.
Absolutely. Parce que si ou pas gon ken relation avec yo pa ka di rien. All right. So we're going to move on to what's suggested. First and foremost, prayer. I'm actually surprised that's not the first thing somebody said. From God comes all instruction, and that leads us to the verse I'd like to relate to, especially as it pertains to my work or dealing with young people, counseling, or anything of the session. James 1 verse 5 says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, that it may be given to him. Bon Dieu dit nous, si nous pas konon ken bagay, si nous besoin aide nou ken bagay, faut mener la Jésus. C'est ça James chapitre 1 verset 5 dit. Building rapport, building that relationship with a person. If you have a relationship with a person, it'll make that person easier to come to you whenever they have any issues, whenever they have a concern. Lo gon sens de sécurité avec moun nan. Lo gon sens de relation avec moun nan. La moun nan a pli à l'aise pour vivre koto lel gon ken problem. Honesty behind confidentiality. This month is Child Protection Month, and although sometimes our young people can come to us with problems, sometimes they may say something that's concerning. That you have to escalate. And we'll talk briefly about that. And that's, my area of expertise. It's very important for you to let the person you're speaking to know that if I have a concern that you are in fear of yourself, if you are unsafe, or that others are unsafe, I might have to report that. That way, si nou komanse pale ou pa di moun nan sa, apwe sa, ou swa we le polis, swa we lon moun na pap santi ou jan de ou. The person won't feel as betrayed because you're honest with them up front to let them know how to do that. And we'll discuss ways to do that without necessarily hurting the relationship. And the reassurance behind listening and helping, like one of our sisters just said, listening is very important. I wouldn't want to come to anybody if I'm in trouble and I don't feel like you're listening to me, because then what's the point? Si moun na pa kweke wap tande vreman, si wap pale avek moun na pi ou sou telefon ou bien wap gade lot bagay, ou bien wap fet wap mouvment, moun na gen wap pense ke ou pap tande vreman nan moment e vulnerable, nan moment ki pi sensible pou li, et puis sa gen wap detri relasyon nou. Okay? Confidentiality, there is a duty to report. I work in child welfare, like I said, son travail social kap travay pou state de Massachusetts lan. Gen bagay ki moun ka bay rapport that are mandated and non-mandated. There's a difference between mandated and non-mandated reporters. And being clear and direct about why this is first important is especially when you're dealing with young people. I remember there was a time where a young person, information was given to me that a young person was being touched inappropriately by his family member. And number one, the fact that I was a boy was more alarming because boys, garçons, yo plus pas sous ou plus pas besoin aucune confession de men garçon yo. Ou plus joindre ça dans mes petits filles, mes garçons yo pense son sang de want pour yo aller rapporter gon ba privé yo. So being clear with that young man and letting him know, like, I have to tell people because you are in an unsafe situation. It's easier to tell them I have to report up and not out. Fom ba rapport sa de l'État, ça veut dire que m'pap et ba cause yan ba moun nan communauté, moun nan l'école lan, moun nan l'église, moun nan ba kon sa, moun mak ba rapport sa, c'est moun qui fait en place, moun kap travay nan dossier sa yo pou yo ka ede yo. Reporting up means reporting up to the necessary people, not reporting out to those who just might want to hear a juicy story or hear gossip and spread that. Okay? Raison qui fait ou gen doit et rabay rapport ça, c'est là ou pe ke moun sa gen doit fait tek li mal ou bien fait lot moun mal. You always have to report when you feel like a person is a danger to themselves or danger to others. Ideally, it would be confidentiality in general is what I'm speaking with. It'd be broken around situations where there's suicidal, homicidal intent or ideation, abuse, or neglect. Raison qui fait ou gen doit et pa kembe sa moun na di peut-être pa ou, c'est si ou suspecte moun na ta vle touye tek li, touye lot moun, même si yo gen ide ou bien yo gen intention, sou suspect gon moun kap subi abus ou bien négligence de n'importe qui jan. C'est dans ce sens ça yo seulement est-ce que ma connais si pour qu'on y a ta penser de l'autre bagay qui a fait craser confidentialité. Lo ap fait ti on raconte ça avec un moun kap parler avec yo de un bagay qui pas bon. Okay? What is a mandated reporter? A mandated reporter is someone who's legally required to report suspected or known abuse or neglect of a child or vulnerable adult to proper authorities. A mandated reporter, again, is someone who is legally required. Gene kek moun peut-être sa yo travay yo, jan de travay a fè yo pa gen chwa yo supposé bay rapport sa yo si yo suspect. Ça pa vle di ke ou même ou gon ti ide ou gon ti feeling ou pa fè investigation pa ou lan. Ça pa wol. Wol pa ou lan c'est sous son mandated reporter, sous gen suspicion se gon moun ka subi abus, n'importe genre de abus ou bien négligence, soit son ti moun ou bien on adulte qui âgé, un moun âgé ou bien un moun qui gen disabilité, any vulnerable adult. C'est job pa pour bay rapport sa bay at loi yo ou bien moun ki en charge yo nan pays. Who are mandated reporters? ça qui fait saisir pendant temps m'a travail comment travail social là il y a des gens qui pas connaît yo tomber dans catégorie ça yo mandated reporters I honestly don't know how to say that in Creole I'm not gonna try child I hope you guys can put two and two together mandated reporters they work often in healthcare they are physicians med interns hospital personnel that are engaged in an exam care or treatment of people also medical examiners, emergency medical techs, dentists, nurses, chiropractors, podiatrists, optometrists, osteopaths. OK, moun kap travay nan l'hôpital yo. Soit son docteur, soit son nurse, soit son CNA, soit son moun kap. Zepi wap pran soin moun nan l'hôpital ou bien nan klinik ou son mandated reporter. Sou travay kay dentiste, ou son dentiste, ou son tech, sou travay nan n'importe jan sa yo, ou son mandated reporter. Any private or public school teachers, tout jan de professeur, administrateur nan l'école yo, guidance or family counselors, moun ki travay ton kou conseiller nan l'école yo, sou travay nan daycare, childcare, after school program staff, preschool, early education staff, n'importe monde qui même travaille dans after school, tout le monde ça son mandated reporter. Child care licensors, monde qui bail, monde qui travaille et dans des care licence yo, pour yo ka kembe programme yo même yo c'est reporter qui mandat as well. Social workers, travail social, monde qui fait foster care, foster parents yo, you are mandated reporters. Clerks, district court magistrates, monde qui travaille dans court yo, monde qui fait raconte avec monde dans court yo. Parole officers, moun ki travay police, officier police yo, moun kap travay nan pompier, moun kap fe psychologue, psychologists, I'm sorry, I can't even talk. Clinical social workers, drug and alcoholism counselors, moun ki travay avec moun ki deal avec drogue, ki ap boy alcohol, tout bagay sa. Clergy members, church members, which means pastors, elders, any ordained or licensed leaders in any church or religious bodies. It is not enough to just pray away certain things. When you see, suspect abuse or neglect, you have to report it. It doesn't matter if you are a mandated reporter or not. You should report it. But if you are a mandated reporter, you are mandated by law. By law. Once you take oath and once you get into these positions, you are mandated by law to report suspected abuse or neglect. Reports can be anonymous. Gene moun même sou pa on mandated reporter ou pa la même moun kite non sou rapport yo. Ou pa bezwen pe gon moun kap fe retribution on ou pa bezwen pe gon moun ki gen wa find out so même ki ba rapport. You can file a report anonymously. So please don't let fear of retaliation to prevent you from doing something that could save or change someone's life for the better. You know, oftentimes people won't report because they are afraid of retaliation. They're afraid of people getting back at them. And unfortunately, as a result, because of that fear, something bad happens to that child or that vulnerable person. Please don't let that hold you back from reporting anything. You can say, I would like to file an anonymous report, and you provide the information such as the person's name, age, things of that nature. All right. Going back to sessions, we spoke briefly about mandated reporting. Before we get there, should we save questions for after mommy number 2, or can we ask questions during?
After is always the
best.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. One thing I did forgot to add when it comes to writing reports is you cannot write a report or file a report on a child that's not born yet. It will be screened out. When it comes to filing a report on abuse and neglect of children, the child has to be born. Okay, so if you see a pregnant woman, unfortunately, doing something that can harm herself or the child, even if you do file it, it's not going to go anywhere because the child is not born. So, sous suspect abus ou bien négligence don ti moun ki poko fait, faut qu'on le ti moun nan fait pour ka e ba rapport sa yo. Même si tu as un monde qui est enceinte, qui a fait bagay ou pas si posé faire, qui a dommagé ou qui a détruit bébé qui est dans votre client, dans Massachusetts, il pas compter. Faut que ti moun fait déjà pour qu'à remplir rapport ça. Okay? So I just wanted to give that tidbit on confidentiality and also give a little bit of those child protection laws and adult protection laws. But we're going to pivot back to qualities to have during sessions. Le gon moun kap vin bo kote ou pou yo pale avek ou den problem kap bayo kap trouble yo, me kalite ki bien important pou kenbe lo pale avek yo nan sa sa yo.
Place the detector near the slits to check which path each electron takes.
Thank you so much. Li important pou honnête avec moun nan. Honesty, mutual respect, faut qu'on gagne respect, faut qu'on bail respect, faut qu'on jeune respect à tout. Et pas là pour présenter ton coup ou juger moun nan. If you're judging somebody, they're most likely to not come to you again. And they're most likely to shut down and not really get to the root of what's bothering them. Open communication, faut qu'on bail espace yo ka communiquer avec ou jen yo capable depuis yo pas de respecter ou bien côté là. No hidden agendas. Gen moun ki ta propose que oh chérie vin pas la avec non, moi gon problème vin pas la avec non. Pour yo ka point zin non mais nous pas supposé langez et frame avec semio. You're supposed to go in there with no hidden agendas. It should not benefit you in any way. It should not be news that you report to everybody out and be the town gossip. You know, when you do that, you're not really doing it from the bottom of your heart. Lo ap fel kon sa, ou pa fel vraiment parce que ok de moun nan. Et puis, ça kap montre ou, soit nan moment sa ou bien moun na ka wel apre. Sharing when appropriate. Sometimes it's helpful to share that you've been through certain situation as well, because that person can see that you've been through it, you went through it, you come out on the other side, and you can provide that insight as to what you did to get out of that situation. Gen des fois, le kon e bay kek témoignage ou ajouter information que ou te kon subi même bagay lan ou bien ou te passe même problème avec moun nan. Gen le kon aider moun nan parce que moun nan ouais que dans situation li pas tellement grave que yo pas ka sorti la dan. Professionalism, especially when you're dealing with a youth or an elderly person that's not necessarily either blood related, regardless, it's important to be professional and keep that boundary. Empathy. Sometimes the empathy can keep you human, keep that humanistic aspects of it. Having positive beliefs. How many people, you don't have to raise your hand or say anything, but there are sometimes you may go to somebody with a problem and they're negative and they don't help it at all because of how negative it all. It really helps to have a positive belief or positive outlook on the situation because it's more helpful to the person that's actually telling you this. It can help them feel better about themselves in the process. Authenticity, show up as your authentic self. And especially with young kids these days, je ne connais le ou pas authentic, le ou pas, I don't know how to say that in Creole, child. I think y'all can figure that out as well. If you're being fake, they can see it. Kids have a good radar. They have a good sense on whether or not you're being authentic or real. So if you're coming off as fake just for the sake of it, they're not going to tell you anything. They're going to shut down. And the same thing with adults too. Adults been here. The elderly individuals, those who are disabled, they've seen it all. They've experienced it all. If you're not authentic, they can see through that and will definitely shut down in those sessions. Okay. Have better judgment and common sense. Sometimes common sense is not common. Gen de fwa, ou kon a pala avek an moun, ou kon di yon bagay ki pap ede situasyon, kap fel pi mal, paske ou pa gon ken sens, pou konen ke gen de bagay ou pa supposé di, right? Use the common sense in those situations, the common sense that the good Lord gave you, all right? Common issues or themes. Gen de komye tem, gen e problem ti moun yo kon genye, soit ti moun yo, soit personaje, or whatever the case may be. They may be common. They may come up more than once. First and foremost is dating. I'll take the perfect opportunity now. Y'all can get mad at me and love me and later. But I don't think our community does a good job with teaching young people how to properly date. It is not too uncommon, not too unfounded for people to be confused when it comes to dating. Seul sa ti moun yo tande lè ap leve si tout moun l'eglise, se pa fè set jiska ce qu'on marié. Puis l'on marié ou ka fè n'importe sa ou fle. Ça pa aider ti moun nan. Ti moun nan, jen yo pa konnen comment pou yo date properly, for them to court properly. Si yo pa montre yo aux gens pou fè ça. Parce que plus nan yo pa la reme et fait tête yo want, fait ton famille yo want, yo pa la reme fait Jésus fâché, but they don't know how because they were not taught. So if you have young people in your house, it's probably good for you to be honest about dating and what the expectations are of dating or how to properly date. Just saying. Okay? Substance use. Genen moun ki kon fè de alcool, yo kon pour drogue, et puis yo pa da reme kontinue fè li. You're looking for help. Okay? Sometimes that might happen too. Genen moun ki kon souffre de dépression. Soit ti moun jusqu'à ce que grand moun. Tout moun kon they can be susceptible to experiencing depression, and that can be a common theme that you might see with speaking to people. Gen moun ki ta envie touye tèt yo, ou ben yo pa da reme rete la encore. Suicide or suicidal ideation, and this is coming up more and more with our younger generation. Wap plus ti moun ta pense de maybe, la vie ta pi bon si yo pa da pla. Ou sa plus nan generasyon sa yo, paske nan tan internet lan, tout ti moun ap wè sa lot moun ap fè. Yo ta reme kopye, moun yo prezante sa yo vle wè sou internet lan. E pi, genen fwa, nan plus tan ke sa, e pa vi yo vwe. Yo pa viv a bel vi sa vwe. But they're comparing themselves to other people. They're being made to feel like they're less than. Because social media, I think personally, is a drug. And kids and young people, susceptible people can become addicted to it. So with that comparison, with online bullying, with whatever the case may be, you may see an uptick of suicide and suicidal ideation. That ties right into peer pressure. Sa ti moun yo apese pousse lot ti moun pou yo fè nan l'ekol lan, nou pa konnen. We don't know the extent of what peer pressure is now. Based on, my personal experiences, we see it's a lot more. Before it used to be peer pressure for, I don't want to say smaller things, but now it's escalating. It's things that can land them in jail, land them getting seriously hurt or hurting other people. They can come to you with self-esteem issues, school or life choices. Yo pa konnen sa yo ka fè apre yo fin sot l'ekol. There are a lot of young people, not even young people, there's some even adults that just make a drastic change during their lives because they feel like whatever they started, it's just not for them anymore. So they might come to you with that to try to see what made you decide to do what you did. Genen moun ki gen wavin bokote ou ki ap bezon konnen, koman te fè konnen se sa wap fè, se li ou ta suppose fè. I might need some guidance in that. And sometimes people might come with you with home life issues. Life is difficult. La vie est difficile pour tout le monde. Il y a des gens qui viennent vivre beaucoup de temps, ils ne même pas là parce qu'ils ont parti ou bien puis font une partie de vie qui est vraiment difficile, qui est tough pour eux. Et puis ils ont juste en parler avec un monde, ils fait confiance avec eux, puis ils ont aider pour retirer quelques fardeaux sur eux. Okay? We don't really have the ability to role play via Zoom. If we were in person, I would have other people act it out. But, hopefully one day we'll be in a setting where we are in person and we can have people act it out. I wouldn't mind doing that. Aftercare. I pou often parle avec un moun, soit un ti moun, soit un moun âgé, whatever the case may be. Gen bagay pou considérer après. Depending on what concerns may come up during the sessions with the youth, appropriate referrals should be made as soon as possible. Si ou suspect de apou fin pale avek un ti moun ou bien un adulte ke gon concern de abus ou bien gon concern de négligence ou gon concern de moun soit yo ta reme e fè lot moun mal ou bien fè tèt yo mal, aksyon si boze rive immédiatement. You shouldn't wait and sit on those things because it could be too late by the time you actually act on them. If you're concerned about, maybe they need long-term care, trying to find out where to make those referrals to. And I do have some information at the end of this that we can share out in terms of therapy places to refer people also, because we don't want to just talk about these things and not know where to go after. I definitely will share links and information for people after this, okay? Care and consideration should be taken when considering the next steps. Consider the following. Maybe if the person wants to, sometimes it's helpful for you to say, let's follow up on this because I'm concerned about you. I'm concerned about this, or I want to see, how this happens or how this turns out for you. You can make the referrals. You can still offer assistance. Ou ka kontine di moun nan, même si ou poko jwen yon souf ou bien yon aide immédiatement, ou gen wap pale avem toujou pendant wap tan aide lan. Sometimes that lets them know that they didn't talk to you for no reason, or it also lets them know that you care. Depi ou pale avek yo, depi ou pose ou kesyon, ou konen, problem ou te pale avek mwen. Koman tout bagay ye kouni? Sa fe moun nan kontan, sa fe moun nan plezi ke wap panse de yo, ou care de yo, epi ou care de sa ka prive yo. Okay. Helpful resources. I have resources here for Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New York. That's what I originally did it for. But for those in Massachusetts and for those across the board, psychologytoday.com, you can use that website to filter. Ou gen wa ale nan psychologytoday.com pou fè referral sou moun bezin terapi, ou ben sou bezin pou tèt pa, ou gen wa ale nan internet sa, ou gen wa degaje ou avèk filter ki an le yo, pou wè jen de assurance moun na genye, sou ta bezon moun ki noa, sou ta bezon fi ou ben ou gason, ou gen wa ale nan website sa pou jwen terapi, swa pou pop tèt pa, ou ben pou lot moun. There's a National Alliance on Mental Illness. You can find any information on any current diagnosis. Gene moun yo doktor yo bay aucun diagnose deja, mais li difficile pou soit famille, soit moun ka bay moun nan support yo pou yo kompren vraiment sa ka prive yo. On the National Alliance for Mental Illness, we see that a lot, especially with our people that have been diagnosed with autism. There's a lot of, whether it's cultural stigma, cultural barriers on that. On the National Alliance for Mental Illness, you can go on that website and they can break down autism or depression or bipolar disorder. It gives you information and education surrounding whatever that mental illness is. And you can also find additional resources in that region specifically for whatever the condition is. Nowadays, we're seeing more and more diagnosis with autism, where plus awareness, plus information sou soit ti moun ou bien moun ki plus âgé ki jwen autism. Gen plus ressources kounyen than before. Massachusetts resource, there's a help step, image sa nou wè sou bord gauche nan screen nan la. Son app ou gen wa download nan telefon na help steps. It's an app for mental health resources. Sou gen suspect bon moun kap endure abus, n'importe genre de abus, you can go and sue within Massachusetts. Alors, you can go on mass.gov/DCF to find the area office closest to you. So what happens is if you do suspect a person is experiencing abuse or neglect and you know you need to file, trying to find the area office closest to you to make that report, you can go on that website to do that. Or you can dial that hotline number, that 1-800 number. I'll also send these resources to circulate after, so it can be shared as well. Boston Emergency Services Team, the best team. That number is what you call if a person is experiencing a mental health crisis. A team will come out to evaluate that person. Best team nan nou gen nan Boston. Si gon moun kap experience, si gon moun kap andye kek problem mental nan moment sa ou gen wawe le best team nan. Son shot de 911 pou moun kap experience problem mental. Sometimes we're afraid to call the police because we feel like the police will exaggerate or exacerbate the situation. The best team, they're clinicians equipped to evaluate some people. Sometimes the best team will come out and they'll feel like, and that's for any age. Sa pou ti moun jiska se gran moun. Best team na gen wa soti pou yo evalue yo, yo gen wa we nan moment sa ou pa bezwen aucun service ou bien yo gen wa deside nan moment sa fok wa l'hôpital nan. Pou yo ka fè plus temps pou yo evalue yo. Et puis yo toujou apre 7 jours yo check up sou pou asure ke tout bagay en forme avec ou. All right? So Hopefully I didn't talk too fast. That's for New York, Rhode Island, and Connecticut services as well. And these are some of my references, whether it's the youth department, Genekek Live Ugenwa Pratu, the Journal of Counseling Psychology, is really good for these kind of resources. And that is the end of my presentation. Now I can open the floor up to questions if anyone has it.
Merci, merci Stacey. Et comme d'habitude, nous connaissons comment ça y est. La présentation fin faite, c'est le moment côté que nous accorder à tout le monde qui veut poser des questions ou bien venir avec des commentaires. Nous connaissons l'autre monde sur qui c'est des travailleurs sociaux et qui doit gagner idée que tu avais additionné ou bien question tout, il doit gagner n'importe qui non qui souligne qui gagne question. C'est le moment pour nous capables de poser. Mais on va tout oublier encore une fois. Dire merci à Stacey pour tant que le prend pour le préparer et venir faire présentation ça pour nous à soir et puis venir partager en pile bonne information que nous sommes capables besoin dans le futur. On a demandé si vous avez une question, vous capable de lever main virtuellement. C'est facile pour moi-même pour capable voir ça, mais si il y a des gens qui veulent poser des questions dans le chat là, ils doivent faire ça aussi. Et si nous avons un mec qui levé que moi-même, moi pas, et pas, ça, nous sommes capables de faire, juste mentionner ça, et puis nous sommes capables de faire la parole. Nous avons un mec qui levé, c'est Tabitha. On a demandé pour capable de poser des questions. Tabitha, vous avez la parole.
Oh, mettez non Tabitha, but no, c'est Sergina. I think it was it. Sorry, I put the wrong name. Yeah. So I had a question for you, Stacey.
Yes.
Have you heard about the program? I mean, the therapist Better Help Therapy.
I have.
And I wanted to know what you thought about it. I actually tried it for myself. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. I tried it for myself because I feel like sometimes I get stressed and I just need to vent a little bit. And I have to tell you I'm just gonna tell you briefly my experience. So when I went on, they asked me certain questions so they can match me up, and I did tell them I wanted a Christian therapist. But then I noticed during therapy, so I did the therapy for maybe 6 months plus. I ended it like last year because of financial situation. But this lady, I mean, we talked, we're conversing and everything, but she did not come with any Christian perspectives. Like, I mean, she was being very general, but then I did specifically ask for a Christian therapist, and she did not really. She won't even quote a Bible verse or anything, and I wasn't really frustrated about it, but I thought it would have been helpful to at least maybe recommend a Christian book or something. And I really didn't get that. But I know with BetterHelp, like they tell you if you're not happy with your therapist, you can always change it. Like, I had that option. Another thing I wanted to say with BetterHelp, one thing that I did like about them is that they offer classes and they offer groups. So it's not just you get the therapy, and then they offer journaling, like for your money, you get journaling, you get classes, you get groups. So they offer more than just therapy. So that's the one thing I did like about it.
Right. I definitely know about BetterHelp, and I have had people have mixed reviews on BetterHelp. BetterHelp son app, ou gen wa download li pou pala avek on moun pou terapi. Gon pa ken moun ki kon itili, gen de moun ki remel, gen de moun ki pa remel. Because they feel like something that there's something that they're looking for, they don't get it. No matter what agency you're getting therapy from, you have the option to switch them. Sou angaje nan terapi ou ben sou gon moun ki angaje nan terapi, ou gen opsyon pou chanje yo. What I found is for BetterHelp and those type of chain companies, it's difficult for them to they might say that they're Christian because that's their personal beliefs, but they also tread the line about saying that or sharing any Bible verses so it doesn't backfire on them. So even if you would have wanted some of that, some people might be afraid to do that because they're afraid for it to go back on their face. Gen moun ki kon pe, même si yo konen son chrétien, le bay moun thérapie, même si yo konen son chrétien yo ye, gen le yo kon pa envie bay kek biblan ou bien kek liv pou moun li, parce que pour loi, yo pa besoin moun interprète comme si ap mette Can you please? Thank you. There's some people yo pa besoin on moun ka interprète li comme si wap force moun yo pense jon pense ya. So you might not be able to get that. If you would prefer Christian therapists, I know in Boston, there was a group of people working on trying to gather a list of Christian therapists. You can also ask, pastors are often equipped with counseling degrees as well. Sometimes you can book it with your pastor, or what I think has been a lot helpful for people, especially when it comes to finances. You call the back of your insurance. Everybody's insurance card, they cut assurance gon numéro pour demander pour aide mental health help. Because it's going directly through your insurance, you already know that this person accepts the insurance. And sometimes you're able to tell the person directly what you want and what you're looking for. I've had an experience with a client where she wanted a Black female Christian therapist near her house. And they gave her a list of people near her house and near her job. So she would call them, she would have their first session with them, which you shouldn't normally be charged for your first session, parce que c'est gens wap e fil moun nan pou wè si eske relasyon sa ka devye ou ka à l'aise pou continue parler avec moun sa. So with BetterHelp, I'm sorry, I just talked in a circle, but I also wanted to offer that resource as well. It's easier to call the back of your insurance, especially when you're concerned with finances, enforcing your insurance that you're paying for to find you a therapist. I will say with that, but BetterHelp, you'll find a lot more people afraid to talk more about the Christian side because they're afraid of saying that, they're afraid of clients saying that you push your personal beliefs on them. But with whatever clinician you're dealing with, if you're in therapy, you don't feel comfortable with that therapist, ask for a new therapist. You have that right. You want to make sure that your money is being spent where it's supposed to. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Merci. M'abli gen quelques bravos qui battent. Moi-même, je vais songer pour me capable de dire comment nous comptons, j'en balancer anglais et créole. Et vous méritez un bravo en plus pour ça tout.
Thank you.
Great job, Stacey. Et oui, merci. Dans la réponse au bail là, on dit que pasteur, yo gagné connaissance, ou capable d'utiliser service. Mais en général, comme si moi réalisé que monde a tendance à hésiter à approcher pasteur, surtout dans la communauté pas noire, parce que le bagage yo parler comme si yo plus que tendance ou bien prier pour famille ou bien pour petit monde ou bien pour monde qui a problème non et puis bah arrêter là.
Oh, true. Donc, I agree with that. That's why I think there are certain pastors I know in the New England area, Pastor Jensen and Pastor Cadet, they have actual degrees in counseling. So it's not something where it will just stay. Those are just the two I know. Maybe there might be other pastors, I'm not sure, but there are some pastors who actually went and sought degrees in counseling. Those are the pastors I'm talking about. I'm not saying for you to go to any pastor and ask for that, because like Sepierre just said, sometimes they'll just pray over you and that's it. You know, prayers without works is dead. And I believe you can pray, but also get help at the same time. Those two should be both. Ou gen dwa priye, men fok ou travay de sou sa ka bon problem nan. Mwen tous les deux ap travay ensemble, la pi bon pou, la pi bon pou situation nan. Gen kek pasteur ki gen degré spécifiquement nan thérapi, nan counseling, nan psychologue, c'est des gens pasteur ça m'a parlé. M'a parlé de n'importe pasteur non, m'a besoin moun vin et fâché avec la oui, mais ça me dit ça c'est pire que l'on dit c'est vrai. Il y a des gens qui pas gain si t'as un background counseling mais c'est pasteur yeah. C'est chercher si ou t'as aimé pasteur parler avec un monde qui chrétien vraiment qui kon bagay ça yo si mande pasteur si aucun degré dans ça ou gen doit poser aux questions ça c'est serviteur de Dieu ou gen doit avoir information ça yo des pasteurs me connaît qui gain degré dans ça yo c'est pasteur Jensen qui est son pasteur dans Hyde Park Church and pastor Cadet who's a pastor at Berea Church in Boston so I know they have the degrees I know not everybody does, but that is just a thought out there. But in the meantime, definitely utilize your insurance and make all the money that comes out of your check each month work. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify.
OK, Serette, ou gen question? Moi, ouais, micro te ouvri. OK, nan point côté touché yo, m'pa connait si gen l'autre monde qui gen question ou bien qui gen main levé que m'pa ka ouais parce que m'a pas enregistré session. Donc si gen main qui levé, c'est qui?
Shirley.
Okay, Shirley, go ahead.
Hi, Stacey, you did such a great job. I actually wanted to comment on a slide you were showing.
Mm-hmm.
When you were talking about like how to approach certain situations with the youth.
Yes.
I thought that was very important, and if we could just stay there a little bit longer because this generation is just a different breed. And like the things that like even me myself what I grew up with, it probably won't work, with the generation right now.
Yeah.
But I do think things that should stay the same is to absolutely have an open and safe space for the youth to come to, because like you said, they will go to social media.
Yes.
They will go to friends.
Yes.
And they will get their answers from them and not parents or like a safe adult that they can trust.
Yes.
Trust is a huge thing for this generation. And yes, you are right. They can see fakeness from a mile away. So it might be a little hard to like, because at the same time, I could see like an adult being in their head and trying to like approach it in the way that the child needs, but just being yourself and just being at least being available to provide that space for a youth should be like the first step, and not just to get answers or for like zen or gossip or anything. It's just to like talk to them. That should be the basic step. And I thought that was a really great slide to hone on, because social media is what exactly they'll go to.
Exactly that. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Shirley. Nowadays, most of the kids, I don't want to generalize all of them, but most of them will go to the internet to find questions to whatever the answers they have instead of a professional, because A, it's easily accessible. Internet là, on quelques petits tapes avec droite ou dans téléphone, on gen wa joindre n'importe réponse que ou ap chercher. But most of the time, if they're not looking for productive information, they're not going to find information that's really that helpful for them. Si tout pou parent konnen li difficile le wap deal avec jen ti moun ki si tellement nan tablet yo, téléphone yo, nan internet nan trop, li très important pour nous-mêmes nous gon en façon de communication qui ouvri, open communication with the kids, so that sometimes they're not always going on the internet. They're able to go to you too. I see the person under Tabitha again. I think Jeanette, if you have a question, I think your hand is raised.
Yeah, that was a good point, Shirley. Yes. I had a question while Shirley was asking her question. The question is, do you recommend for like, say it's a family therapy or whatever, like to seek like Haitian counselors?
You can.
I mean, it's like, how do you look at it? Because how sometimes how like a lot of us are raised by, the kids are raised by Haitian parents, and there is a cultural influence on some of the mental health situations. But do you think that would be helpful to come with like, because since the kids have been raised by Haitian parents and Or do you think it's a combination of a Haitian Christian? Like, I mean, what do you think about that?
I think it could be good and it can also be bad depending on the person. I like people who are able to relate. I've seen firsthand how a solid Haitian therapist is very helpful, especially for the parents or the people who are not born in the States that are not primarily English born, because they're able to explain things to the parents in a way that they'll understand. Because they have the culture, because they have the therapy. Because they have that background information, it's very helpful for them to explain what's going on to a way that the parent will understand. And that's in the sense of family therapy. So if you are looking into family therapy, I think a good Haitian counselor or provider is key because they're able to explain things to the parents in a way that they might understand. For the youth, I don't think necessarily the background matters. What I think matters is their ability to connect with the youth. In that sense, is what matters is their background and their approach to the youth. Because a Haitian clinician might be able to approach the youth well as American one. So I think for the youth, it depends on the youth themselves and knowing, how to get to that person. In that sense, for the youth, I don't think it typically matters, but I don't have any issues with Haitian counselors as I am one. So there's that. Hopefully that answers your question as well.
Hey, Jeanette, est-ce que vous satisfait? Are you happy with the answer?
We're satisfied parce que, I mean, I guess the point that we say first, c'est que, ou konen apil nan ti moun yo grandi avec, parents nou ki vin avec on lot. Comme si ti moun yo grandi différent, qu'apil nan ti moun ki grandi nan pays ya, comme si nou vin avec principe haïtien nan, ou kompren? So, je comprends que peut-être c'était capable d'aider si jeune a fait face à une série de difficultés. Peut-être si counseling a dit, OK, bring up the point que c'est, que ben qui j'ai grandi and this is why. Vous comprenez? Capoter perception ça, so. But Stacey, it doesn't really make a difference at all.
No, it really does depend on the kid, because sometimes knowing what the kid's need is the most effective thing. Like if we're dealing with a child who needs a clinician, the background can influence it, but what matters is this person a good fit for this child? The focus should be more on that rather than, the specific background. So a person could be Haitian and can be Christian, and because of their approach, that doesn't really matter to the kid. What matters to the kid is this person someone that's going to listen to me and make me feel heard and help me in the sense that I can understand and can reach me? That really is what matters, as opposed to anything else. But for the family therapy, the reason why I would say a Haitian clinician would be helpful is because they can cater to both. They can cater to mom, they can cater to dad, they can cater to the child, they can explain things in a way that the parents would understand, but as well, they can work with the child. But when it comes to individual therapists or therapeutic mentors for the child, it just matters on, is that person able to connect with the kid or not?
Yeah, parce tout, alors, bonté qui t'a gagné là-dedans, c'est comme si c'est un monde qui a même culture ensemble avec eux, c'est que non seulement capable d'adresser avec à ce monde-là, comme ça tout capable d'aider les parents, comme si parents c'est créole là qui puis à l'aise avec lui, parce que ça capable d'aider tout. Mais malheureusement en culture noire, même le problème ça a présenté, nous pas fait une autre confiance. En pile fois, c'est pour aller côté, même si nous connaissons mon professionnel lié dans le domaine là, parce que c'est pas lié, on voulait aller de l'autre côté tout. Donc, des deux côtés, le mal était fini, que nous capable de dire. Nous pas connaître si il y a l'autre question dans ce mais on va mentionner dans la présentation qui a rapport. Alors, étant que grand monde on t'a dit nous mettra au premier an, un mois après, c'est là tu as parlé de dette là. Donc, Moi-même, Marie-Josée levé, même je voulais mentionner ça, donc à pas mentionner ce mais Marie-Josée la parole encore.
Ah, merci beaucoup, merci Pérez. C'est tout simplement un renforcement n'a fait dans ça que dit yo. Je pensais que pour haïtien qui thérapeute là, je crois que 99, si je parle bon, je dis 90 parce que je ne connais pas 10% ratio, mais yo très professionnel. Leur où vini devant ni pas une question de race ou pas, mais avantage que les gagnent, hein, c'est que je ne pas parler de langue, je ne pas parler dans langue, c'est compréhension. Parce que thérapeute, psychothérapeute que nous avons rencontré ces générations, Paul, Stacey, est un petit peu plus grand que vous, mais quasiment dans le même groupe génération ça, qui psychothérapeute présentement. Qui fait yo même, yo connaît on série de approches que maman yo a papa yo te gagné, qui doit même raison, élément déclencheur problème nan. Parce que, gain de fois, c'est nous-mêmes, dans l'éducation, nous te recevoir la caille, nous venons poser nous l'autre culture, nous ou nous avons une acculturation qui mal placée, qui fait timoun, nan, vin gen problème que la vive là. Mais étant donné que nous avons décerné ça psychothérapeute et nous vivons l'île, li plus facile pour capable comprendre qui ça timoun na vive là pour solution pour aider. Même si maman ne doit pas vle prendre rien d'amour, mais on compte qui ça, qui stratégie pour bali pour petit là. Parce que même ou ka rejoindre ni côté lié.
Exactly. I agree 100%. I agree 100%.
Merci Marie-Josée pour apport dans ça. Donc, on a retourné sur question dating. On dit que parents ont vraiment pas fait un bon travail dans et les testimoniaux pour date properly. Comment remettre. Moi-même, par expérience, comment il y a deux mesdames qui font grand monde. Donc, je ne pas penser que nous avons fait un petit bon travail parce que ça non plus, parce que parfois, on donne ce qu'on a. C'est ça, on gagne ou offrir. Vous comprenez? Donc, mais nous sommes capables d'essayer de notre mieux pour nous faire ça qui est nécessaire, dire ça. Mais en fait, j'en dis là, c'est un problème, nous gagnons dans la communauté noire, surtout dans l'église, non? C'est premier ça qui vient devant, c'est pas faire sexe. Leur remet un petit garçon, et attention, parce que non seulement on va faire honte à famille, non, etc., mais comme c'est ça qui est essentiel vraiment qui vous a dit, pendant que période ça, et nous pas gagné, nous pas connaître skills ou bien langage nécessaire pour nous capables de connaître qui ça exactement pour nous dire. Donc, alors ça c'est moi-même. Par contre, nous connaissons plusieurs générations sur ligne là. Donc, il y a une bagaille que moi remarqué, c'est que façon mon te remet dans la génération pas moins Haïti, en soit façon mon remet ici, bien que c'est comme si c'est le même résultat, on a pas un petit devant, mais comme si on c'est deux étapes qui sont différentes. Non, t'es qu'on gagne, tu écris une note, t'es qu'on gagne comme si mettez rendez-vous bien venir parents, aller sur place, machine dans la main, etc. Ben ça yo. Donc bon, comme si nous attendons à une série d'étapes, même j'en sais avec panneau, et pourtant ça que nous avons remarqué que ben il est différent là que on vivre dans l'autre milieu, dans l'autre environnement, dans l'autre culture. Et donc, nous supposons être capables d'apprendre qui s'allier et puis quitter l'esprit nous ouvert. Quitter l'esprit nous ouvert pour nous capables d'adapter nous et puis ouais comment pour nous capables d'adresser ça. Je ne connais pas si on connaît plusieurs générations, j'aime dire là, sur ligne dans là, nous allons mettre qui ça que nous pensons et façon qui conseil que nous capables porter à conversation ça. Avant que nous finissions, parce que normalement, on a fini à 8 heures. Donc, l'heure a avancé sérieusement, il est 7h47. Nous avons seulement quelques minutes qui étaient. avant que nous baille Stacey pour capable faire conclusion, nous t'aimerais et tendez monde qui souligne qui capable ba nous quelques conseils et qui capable aider tout parce que genre de programme ça nous fait nous voulons partager ensemble avec l'autre monde et puis connaissance que nous gagnons nous partager là au moins monde qui souligne là nous connaît déjà bénéficier de lui. Merci madame Adeline Isaac, moi on levé on capable gagner la parole.
Je connais en tant que chrétien et nous toujours visés pour aller ouais chrétien pareil nous. Même temps mais connais demandé Stacey, je te complimente. I want to compliment you for your job, good job you done this afternoon. And I appreciate what you say and what you are doing as a counselor. I know I hope you have success in your in your employment because you just said you've been raised as a how you call that? You are in charge of something. I don't recall what you said before. But anyway, you did a really, really a great job. I compliment you. What I want to ask, sometimes me poser, question me poser, qui différence avec chrétien et non chrétien? Parce que moi, nous dit que il y a des gens qui aiment aller avec, qui aiment ouais thérapeute chrétien ou non chrétien. Est-ce que c'est pas le même job là vous fait en fait?
Yes and no. Moun qui sont thérapeutes et chrétiens, yo gen base et Jésus nan vi yo gen base ça. So gen e bagay yo gen doit faire en tant que coping skills, coping mechanisms. N'importe ça kap tou belan, yo gen doit changer genre de coping skills yo ba ou si yo se chrétien ou pas. Parce que si yo se chrétien, yo gen doit di, mais on livre pour li, mais comment pour faire journal ou mais de qui ça ou supposé, ou pas supposé, non, mais comment au cas et changer pensée yo, non base qui basé avec Bible, avec foi. En tant que on l'autre monde qui parle chrétien, yo gen doit ba même et éducation, mais base yo pas na Bible, base yo pas chrétien. So their coping skills for you may not be Christian based. So I really do think it depends on what your comfort level is. Yes, both of them may have gotten the same degrees, but jan yo fait référence yo an jan yo ba parce que sou gon thérapeute avec ou yo pa bon quelques devoirs, moi le devoir ba konen vraiment ça a fait avant. So devoir yo ba ou gen doit basé sous foi chrétien ou pas. So that's one of the major differences. So while yes, they're both licensed clinicians, and yes, they have their techniques, their beliefs that are you obtain through school or through practice. What they have you practice outside of their sessions, understanding is parce que yon moun li gen doit thérapie so yo pa gen compréhension de comment foi ou gen doit aider tout. There are some therapists, because they're not Christian, they don't understand how the church can play a role in positively or negatively affecting your mood or things of that nature. Whereas that Christian person will have that understanding. Même ça, c'est Marie-Jo tap di de logon therapist qui haïtien. They have that understanding of the culture. It's very similar with having a Christian versus a non-Christian therapist.
Okay. OK. Ma deuxième question, moi, est-ce que nous avons besoin de mandate pour report? Par exemple, si moi, mon voisin qui violent a maltraité, ou bien madame ni, ou bien Timounio, est-ce que je suis supposé un mandate pour me report?
No.
Okay.
No, you don't have to be a mandated reporter to report anything. But if you are a mandated reporter, however, that's the difference. If you are a mandated reporter and you suspect abuse or neglect, you have to report.
Oh, yes.
You have to, by law. That's according to your job. But if you're not a mandated reporter, you can still report. And you can also, like I said, you can also report anonymously, because if you're afraid that un voisin gen doit faire un bagay parce que yo apprend que ou même ou file un rapport sur yo, ou gen doit faire anonymously pour yo pas mette nou la dan. But you don't have to be a mandated reporter to report at all. If you suspect of abuse and neglect, you can possibly save someone's life. Report it. You can have a job to investigate it. The way the reporting goes is, l'on fait un rapport, les office ou bien l'État li rapport, gon team kap sorti pour faire investigation par yo. Pour voir si abus rive vrai. So it's not your job to investigate. All you have to do is think. I feel like I suspect, and when you file the report, they're going to ask you what makes you suspect it. And you give that information. You don't have to be a mandated reporter to report at all. But if you are, you have to. If that makes sense.
OK. Dans même sens ça, est-ce que si mon courant, moi sûr, moi fait, moi exemple que ti moun nan ou bien madame nan et gen neglect ou et violence la kayo, si me connaît, par exemple, si par exemple m'a vive avec petite moi, ma bon exemple, et que petite moi maltraité petite li, petite. Est-ce que moi la loi pas imposé que me supposé rapporter ça?
Non.
Si me rapporter ça, est-ce que si me pas rapporter, la loi pas bon tort le fait que me pas rapporter? Est-ce que vous comprenez ça me dit?
Yeah, je comprends ça dit. Je connais dans quelques situations li ka difficile pour vous. Sou connais ou capable ba rapport quand même. Mais if you're not a mandated reporter and you don't know that, yeah, they might look at you different, but it's not like you're gonna get in trouble, if that makes sense. But you should. Sou suspect ça ou bien sou connais directement, faut qu'on ba rapport. Tout ça ti moun affecte la pas affecte pita. So epi ti moun sa gen doit élever li konnen mais grand mwen te konnen mais ça m'dap suivi government va jam di mon bagay. So ou gen doit pas gen problème avec loi, mais ou gen problème avec ti moun petit là parce que ou même ou te gen en position pour ou ka aider pas suivi genre de abus ça encore, mais ou pas di rien. So ça Jésus gen doit pénir ça. But loi
situation délicate.
Yeah. You're not going to get in trouble necessarily by the law if you're not a mandated reporter. Although, like I said, if you do suspect, even if you're not, you should still file.
OK. Qui moun qui mandate reporter? Seulement social worker, médecin, sort liste ou te banouan?
Liste te banouan, you're considered a mandated reporter. From class I gave you was the over umbrella options of who are mandated reporters. So if you are unsure, you can always go on your state website and find a full list to see if your job falls under that. But again, if you suspect abuse or neglect, you should report because you could be saving somebody's life.
Pour qui ça ma question, non, pour le l'autre monde parler parce que me connais nous presque fini, c'est que dans certains pays et si vous sont voisins ou bien si vous sont membres de la famille et que ou pas reporter li et la loi compte. C'est pour si on a cas là et qu'on ouais que gain abus ou bien sous son voisin qui proche qui ouais que gain abus ou pas reporter la loi compte. La loi au cas yo ka fine ou bien yo ka même jusqu'à mettre en prison. Ça dépend jusqu'où abus à aller. Mais il me semble que aux États-Unis c'est différent. C'est ça me comprendre de ça dire.
Yeah, c'est différent. So mandated reporter ou comme ça, you can find you can mettre en prison tout parce que tu dois mettre et service en place pour prévenir ça. So can be fined or imprisoned if you are a mandated reporter and you didn't know that. Gon documentaire on Netflix qui, I think it's the case of Gabriel Hernandez, ou wè jan on ti moun te mouri paske te gen travaye sosyal kap travaye avec famille, mais yo pat vraiment tande l'école voisin moun ki ta bay rapport sa yo. So moun sa yo te al nan prison yo même. Parce que yo te gen wa fon bagay pou retire ti gason nan situation sa, et puis yo bay détail de tout qualité rapport qui te rentre, mais yo pat fon rien. So if you are a mandated reporter, you absolutely can get fined, you can get fired, you can get disbarred, you can get whatever the case may be, and that can happen. Et puis genen le ou kon rempli rapport yo tou pa gan ekrive parce que soit yo pa gen assez information ou bien yo deside ke nan investigasyon pa yo pa wè abli. Sa pa supposé décourage yo file anyways. Ou konen nan konsyans ou fè sa ou te supposé fè, ou te pense gon ba ek a privé, ou fè duty pa ou lan kom on humain ki kon gen konsen sa yo, so ou file rapport yo.
Merci pour apport Madame Adeline. Et nous connaissons nous arrivé dans dernier moment, dernière minute, même temps mais Shirley levé, m'a demandé si vous voulez faire intervention quand même. Dans le moment ça, on a la parole et puis après, tout de suite après, et c'est capable de faire conclusion de présentation et puis on a remercié tout le monde. Donc Shirley, est-ce que vous voulez prendre la parole encore?
Yeah, I was actually going to comment on the first question from Adeline about like what's the difference between a Christian counselor and a non-Christian counselor. I've experienced both of them. I just wanted to share my experience with
is
that.
Also a social worker, so that's my everybody.
Okay. Thanks. But yeah, so the clear difference I found, like Stacey said, is that the counselor that I had, the therapist that I had that was Christian based, every session she mentions a verse, a Bible verse. She asks about my week or the issues that are going on, and then she channels it to the Bible. Like she said, read this verse, read this Bible verse, read this book. There's a clear difference. And the one that they're both good, by the way. There's none that is better than others. Just, I guess it depends on what you're looking for. But the one that wasn't Christian based, she was also very good. She gave homework that had to do with like the mind, like thinking positively or just things that I was tasked to do. But they didn't mention the Bible or they didn't mention Jesus. They both provided what they needed to provide. So ultimately, I would say, like, think about what you really need. If you really need or want a Christian counselor, you could definitely search for it. Your insurance could help you with that for sure. But both are beneficial, in my opinion. That's all I want to say.
Okay. Bon, Stacey pour la parole.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yes.
Okay. Donc, ça veut dire que l'homme, parce que son travail social, parce que ou dans situation pour capable provide information, help others, you also need or you can benefit from that as well, because la réponse que Shirley Bailala a montré que c'est pas dans situation étant que travailleur social qui t'a bien conseil, mais c'est lui-même il prend thérapie. Donc ça veut dire que nous tous nos besoins, et parfois nos besoins en sorte de thérapie pour nous capables continuer. C'est pas il y a rien de mal pour capable monde capable aller pour un service thérapeutique. Stacey, non, passons la parole là pour capable faire conclusion pour nous et puis après c'est Monique qui a fait prière finale là pour nous. Merci à tout le monde d'être venu. Merci pour votre participation et puis même là nous pas et parler, nous connaissons que nous recevons un peu d'informations à ça et nous capables de partager avec vous. Merci.
Yes, thank you so much again for everybody who tuned in, who heard me, who listened, who asked questions too. Maybe your question, somebody else had it in mind, but was either too shy or was hoping somebody else would ask. Just my final thoughts. Again, even if you are suspicious that someone might be going through abuse, whether it's a child or even an elderly person, please report. Always report. You never know, that can actually change someone's life. And if somebody does come to you to help, just in mind being authentic, being open, being real, and also informing them from the beginning. Like if I have any thoughts or any questions about whether or not you are safe, not only for yourself but for other people, I might have to report it. Even if that person declines to speak to you, at least you know they're honest with you. And sometimes if they're really desperate, yo pa kontine pala avek yo a. Genen moun yo se telman gen problem, yo pa bezwen konen si wap ba informasyon san ba le ka paske yo vin bo kote yo paske yo bezwen ed sa vreman. Kontinye kembe jen yo, kontinye kembe tout moun nan priye nou. E pi menm si ou ta men bezwen ed pou ptet pa ou, apran konen ki sa ou bezwen, ki sa wap chèche a, menm si son terapi ki sen ki chrétien utiliser numéro de carte assurance pour mental health help là. Parce que ou déjà connaît tout le monde y a pas comme option yo accepter assurance ça si on connaît dit qu'on petit problème petit comme et tout le monde pas qu'à afford pour yo payer un thérapeute chaque fois yo rencontrer $200 $150 et genen but you don't know what brought the person can also your to help them. Gen jujman de sityasyon ou men sou moun nan sou kè ou, li gen dwa empêche ou bay ed lan moun bezwen. So always lead with love, always lead with pure intentions. Asye ke intensyon pure le ou bezwen ede moun nan. E pi Jésus a blessing. And also remember towards opposites. So don't just pray away and assume that anything can happen. If you have the ability to help, make sure that you do that with also counting on God according to James 1 verse 5 as we held. And that is it. I will share the links to the resources that I have
Thank you.
You all amazing listeners.
Thank you.
Keith.
Thank you, Stacey. Thank you. Such a great job. We all benefit from it. I hope that everyone listen to you and use whatever you give us to navigate our journey.
Yes.
And closing prayer. Merci Seigneur pour grâce, amour et miséricorde. Merci Seigneur Dieu pour connaissance que ma petite fille que elle est capable de partager. Comprendre tout mais premier cancer ou c'est une source qui est capable de diriger par nous. C'est un temps pour toujours mémoire, l'esprit, on n'a pas été caché qu'on est, pour nous connaître tout le bagage, mais pour nous toujours, pour nous, mais d'apprendre d'autant pour papa, aidez-nous, dirigez-nous, bénis petite fille, bénis famille, bénis nous tous, Seigneur, qui l'a captandé et permettre que nous capables d'aider sur le passage. Pardonnez-nous et préservez-nous tout danger.
Amen. Merci.